Let's bring in Jim Barker from the CFL and TSN and say, happy Football Friday, Jim.
Thank you very much, Moose. You look refreshed and ready to roll.
I am ready to roll. It's good. It's good to be back. Catch me up.
You're right. You're right about vacations in our bit. I've never been able to go to Europe because Europe, the months or the times that I have off, and I would only have a week or 2 weeks off, are really difficult. Now that I'm doing television, it's a little different, but I'm free up until about May, but it's real rainy over there. So my one and only vacation was to New Zealand, down by where you were, because it's summertime in December there. And so
that's perfect.
That's great that you got away for that long.
So catch me up because, I didn't get to watch the games down there, but you follow as much as you can. You see some of the content. So when we head into week 20 and the 3 games we got on tap, what are you looking forward to in the league this week?
Well, this week's I'm actually away. I'm in Southern California at my 50th high school reunion. So that's
all right.
That's something I've been looking forward to. And so I'm down in Pasadena and getting ready for that tomorrow. So I'm not gonna be involved this week. But there's two games that to me are really the Calgary game. Calgary Hamilton is, again, it's tough to even talk about. I mean, Hamilton is getting better, and but the other 2 games, Ottawa and Toronto, is huge because somebody's going to get the home field for that playoff game, and that's huge when you look at Toronto's record at home is so much better than it is on the road, and Ottawa's record is so much better at home. So this is a huge game for both teams. I am actually looking forward to it. I'm 3 hours different, so it kicks off at noon here. So I'm going to be able to see the entire thing in its entirety prior to the reunion.
Isn't that great?
And I am looking forward. I am looking forward to that. Ottawa, I think, is going to get some guys back this week. They need to. They haven't played well. I mean, they're backing in, kind of like the BC Lions. That's the thing intriguing about the other game, is the BC Lions. They're a team in turmoil right now. I mean, they got blasted, absolutely blasted last week in a game that, they needed to play well. And Saskatchewan basically physically beat them up. It was like, it was really, as I watched the game, I thought BC hasn't changed from last year. Because I don't know if you remember, but last year I talked a lot about their problem against Winnipeg was being able to hang physically. Could they handle what Winnipeg does, their run game, their lines, and could they handle it? Well, that was the problem against Saskatchewan because Saskatchewan physically just beat them up. I mean, from the very beginning, they out-hit them, they out-hustled them. It was just I almost got a weird feeling watching BC as to, what are they? They didn't seem to be into the ball game, which was shocking to me. And, they've got a game this week against Montreal, who, again, Montreal is winning, but they're not doing it the way they want to do it. Cody should be back this week, and I'm guessing they'll play him some. The game means nothing. It's kind of like Toronto last year. They've been playing a lot of meaningless games, and we know what happened to Toronto in the playoff game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Montreal. I think for them to be able to go out there and win that game would be huge. For BC, this game is as big as any game because Vernon Adams comes in at quarterback, and what happens there? And if he plays great and he takes them to a Grey Cup and they actually make the Grey Cup with VA there, what do you do with Nathan Rourke and his $800,000 contract? I mean, it's a really kind of, I'm not going to say dicey, but we talk about it a lot. I'm kind of a believer when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. But when you have 2 great quarterbacks, as long as you're winning, it's the greatest thing in the world. But when you don't win, there's division that happens. And that's what their team's playing like. Their team's playing like there's people in that locker room that think VA should be playing, that think this was VA's team. He got him to this point. And yeah, he was hurt. And Nathan Rourke came back, but Nathan Rourke hasn't done anything to take that job. I think Rick Campbell was behind a rock in a hard place and had to make this move. I just think it was a move he really had no choice. What happens now is how VA plays. And, if he plays poorly and they go back to Nathan, then, they just, that it is what it is. But if he plays great, I think now it becomes really interesting offseason for BC in terms of what they're going to do. And, I'm sure they're going to want to move one of them. There's no way they can keep both unless they just don't care about the salary cap, because
it's a tough spot.
Nathan's making twice what some teams are paying their starting quarterback. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation. And again, handling it this year, I said from the very beginning on this show, it could be great, but it could go into the toilet in a hurry, and that's what's happened. I mean, Rick Campbell is in the worst position anybody could be in, because you got this great quarterback that half your team probably wants to play, yet you got your franchise quarterback who's he's okay. He hasn't played horribly. Lapo did a great thing online that you can watch on some of his mistakes. I mean, he hasn't played horribly, but he hasn't done anything to say, I'm the best quarterback in this league. Anybody who's been watching can say that he hasn't done that. And maybe the expectations were too high because of what he did. But that, to me, is the game of the week. Even though the Ottawa-Toronto game is for all the marbles, and I think for Chad Kelly, it's a huge game at home. For Ottawa, what are they? I just, they last week played with 5 Canadian offensive linemen for the last 2 weeks. And they've survived. I mean, there was pressure, but they've survived. This week, Drake Centers comes back to play left tackle. And will they physically? They haven't tried running the ball since Rock Armstead left. And they need to run the ball. This time of the year, Moose, it's about being physical. And I say that on the show all the time. The other panel people, they get sick of hearing it, because to me, the team that goes out and smacks the other one in the mouth is the team that's going to win this time of year. And that's exactly what Saskatchewan, what Saskatchewan did last week. They went out and punched him in the mouth and said, don't come into my house and think you're going to do anything. And there was no response from the BC Lions. And it was, so, it's really intriguing, those Saturday games. So tonight's game, I wish I had something exciting to say about Calgary and Hamilton.
Well,
but
let's settle on that for a second, because with Hamilton, Calgary's got some questions, right? And we're going to deal with that. But there's been at least some good story around the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the last half of the season. They've played better. Bo's played better. Chris Jones has got that defense playing a little bit better. So it makes me wonder, what does this team do in the offseason? And what direction do they go in the offseason, or do they kind of bring it back?
That's the great question, is do you bring Bo Levi back? He's played fantastic. He's played MOP level. I can't vote for an MOP who doesn't make the playoffs. I just can't do it. Because to me, the most outstanding player, makes all the players around him better. And that's not Bo's problem. I mean, Bo can't do anything about that horrible defense they had the first 5 weeks. And he feels like if we don't score every single time, we're not going to win. And there's a lot of pressure to that. And once Chris Jones came in and that defense started playing better, he could now play his game. And I think Scott Milanovich, they've started to get on the same wavelength. But is that what Scott's going to want to go in, or the organization's going to want to go into the league with? Or is Taylor Powell going to be their guy? And I think that's a really interesting question that, again, the fans in Hamilton, they're gonna get sold something. Now, how much are they going to buy it? I think that's the big question, because they're going to get sold something. Either Bo's got more time, or we're going to keep Bo as a backup and let Taylor try to do what he does. But now you run into, how's that leash when you've got a last year? Because I believe he's played at an MOP level, Bo Levi. And if his team would have made the playoffs, I'd have voted for him for most outstanding player. but I just can't do it with it because I just believe so strongly in winning when you're a quarterback. That's the sign of I got a chance to coach Doug Flutie, and Doug Flutie's thing was not. It wasn't about winning. It was about every guy on that football team was going to have their best year playing with him. It might be the right guard. And I was the offensive line coach back then, and he would say, Jim, where's our matchup issues? And, it might be our right guard who was Dan Payne against a little quick defensive lineman. And he would say, if that guy makes a tackle, that's on me. And Dan Payne gave up no sacks when Doug Flutie was there. Obviously, his greatest season as a football player. That was what Doug Flutie was about. We were hammering Winnipeg one game, winning by 40, something like that, in 97. And Don wanted him to come out. And he said, no, I need to get Dwayne Demetrician. I need to get him a touchdown before I come out. And sure enough, the next time we get the ball, boom, we go down. Dwayne Demetrician scores. Then he goes to Don, okay, I'm good. I can come out, but I needed to get that. It was important to him that every guy, guard, tackle, receiver, running back, Robert Drummond. I mean, he used Robert Drummond in a way that he was never used before or then after that, because Matt Flutie had that outstanding player. To me, he was the ultimate because everybody around him was outstanding. And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, really is. And we'll be curious to see, how that shakes down and if Bo garners any votes in the MOP race. I'm sure he will. He's played well, but I'm with you. I think you got to be a playoff team to win that award. It's not a most valuable player award, but you got to have some sort of valuable player in it.
And there's your poll question. Should a player who doesn't win or doesn't get into the playoffs be considered for MOP?
Done. You hear that, guys? Let's get that up on YouTube ASAP. We sold it. Enjoy Pasadena, Jim, and congrats on the 50th high school reunion.
Thank you. And I will have a great time, and I'll be back at it next week.
Awesome. Jim Barker, the CFL on TSN. Enjoying the week off down in Southern California.